Judge, I'm back.
Okay, y'all need anything else, or we brought some more people in? I don't know if anybody needs.
Yeah. If you see January Hawk log on, Judge,
Oh,
she's the nation's caseworker, and I need to talk with her in a breakout room just briefly before we get started also.
I don't think we have her in. I'm double checking.
We've reached out to her and she tells us she's logging on.
Todd, she's in the Teams waiting room. I'm fixing to log in and tell her to go to the Zoom link, not the Teams link.
And Judge,
So we'll give her a minute so you can visit with her.
And I would hesitate to start without her since she's since it's an ICWA issue. So
right. Nope, we're not going to do that. So
thank you.
Yeah. Jan, we are here today set for our final. We are conducting this through the Zoom program based on a finding of good cause. We've got people spread out all over the place, including a tribal representative from the tribe. So this hearing is being held electronically, also by the agreement of the parties. All right, we are live streaming, and we also have Ms. Taylor, who is making our official record. So we'll go ahead and take announcements from everybody, and then we'll get going.
Todd Alvey, on behalf of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, I'm ready to proceed, Your Honor.
Bailey Sapien, on behalf of respondent mother Charlie Yan, and myself and my client are present and ready.
Bethany Stevens, on behalf of the father, Sarome Yan, we're both present and ready, Your Honor.
Bill Jackson, on behalf of the child, present and ready, Your Honor.
Okay, and CASA is also present with us. Mr. Alvey, how many witnesses have we got today?
5, Your Honor.
Okay.
For sure, or pretty sure, so.
Okay. Is everybody that's expected to testify present right now? I never did see the one counselor.
Right. Pace Lawson was subpoenaed, and he has some conflicts, time conflicts, Your Honor. So if he comes on, if you'll let me know, but and I'll try to get to him, but I'm not sure that he'll be available. Richard Gatlin has also been subpoenaed. He's asked me to give him 15 minutes lead time, and I'll do that when the time comes. So he's not present right here. But 2 of my other counselors are, and the other 2 witnesses that I anticipate calling are.
All right, then. Ms. Sapien, besides your client, anybody else that you think you'll be calling today?
Yes, Your Honor, Brian Hargrave.
All right. And how is Mr. Hargrave associated with the case?
Mr. Hargrave is Miss Yan's caretaker.
Okay. All right. So he would not be testifying as an expert then?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. And Ms. Stevens?
Just my client, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Jackson, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, then. What I'd like to do is go ahead and all the witnesses that are currently here, I would like to go ahead and get them sworn in. So the counselors that have been identified, Mr. Hargrave, and then obviously Department St. Francis people. If all of you will please raise your right hands.
Judge, I would also ask that you have Ms. Hawk sworn in.
Okay, and Ms. Hawk, who is, I assume, is the designated expert for the ICWA purposes. Mr.
Correct.
Yan, I'd go ahead and swear in the parents, Mr. Yan and Ms. Yan both. Okay, everybody I think's got their right hand up now. All right, do each and every one of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give on trial today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
All right, I think that gets everybody. All right, thank you all very much. Okay, anybody wish to invoke the rule? Okay. All right then, Mr. Alley, you may call your first witness.
Before I call any witnesses, Your Honor, I have 5 documents that I've previously sent to all counsel that I will be asked to pre-admit at this time. And I'll go through each one separately if it pleases the court. Your Honor, first, I would ask that it states Exhibit 1, or maybe it's better to do it this way. Petitioner's Exhibit 1 would be a certified copy of the original petition with affidavit that was filed with the court on or about October 11th of 2021.
Okay, any objection, counsel?
Your Honor, Todd, did you send it to me or to Aaron? Because I just got on a few weeks ago. And I don't think I have those exhibits.
And I probably sent them to Aaron. I will make sure that Gail gets those sent to you right now.
Okay, if I could just wait, Your Honor, I don't want to not object if I can't see it yet.
Yeah, I understand. I will just take, anybody else have any objection to petitioner's Exhibit 1?
No objection.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll watch.
Petitioner's Exhibit number 2, Your Honor, would be a certified copy of the status order, which was filed on December the 16th of 2021. Petitioner's Exhibit 3, Your Honor, would be a certified copy of the temporary orders filed in the clerk's office, in this case, October 26th of 2021. Petitioner's Exhibit 4, Your Honor, would be a certified copy of an unsigned family plan of service, which was filed on the court with the court on November 22nd of 2021.
Can that be explained to me?
I'm sorry, what, Ms. Yan?
Can that be explained to me? What is that?
Okay, well, he's offering some exhibits, and that was a family plan of service that was prepared and filed in the case, but it was unsigned. In other words, I guess you nor Mr. Yan had signed it. Sorry.
Finally, Your Honor, Petitioner's Exhibit 5 is the actually signed by both parties family plan of service, which was filed with the court on January the 14th of 2022. I would call Cynthia Bowen Burns. Ms. Burns, how are you employed?
I'm employed as a licensed professional counselor with Choices Counseling Center.
And what type of certifications do you have?
I have a license to practice counseling. I'm also a sex offender treatment provider as well. And I'm certified in BIP, Better Intervention Prevention Program, just to facilitate.
And how long have you been a licensed or had your LPC certification?
I have had my LPC since 2014.
What type of education do you have?
I have a master's degree in counseling.
And where's that from?
That degree is from Wayland Baptist.
And have you been a practicing licensed counselor since at least 2014?
Yes, yes.
And have you counseled with many folks during that time?
I have counseled with numerous clients, yes, sir.
And have you had to testify in court as an expert concerning your counseling in the past?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would ask that the court designate Ms. Burns as an expert in counseling services.
Any objection?
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
All right, Ms. Burns, then you have been qualified as an expert in your field, and as such, you are entitled to testify as to your opinions in your field.
Ms. Burns, are you familiar with Charlie Sarome or Saros Yan, Y-A-N?
Yes, sir, I am.
And how are you familiar with any of the members of this family?
I am familiar with the father because I started counseling with him and he started attending the BIP program on 1/24 of 22. I'm also familiar with Charlie Yan because she started attending the women's group in 2022. And I'm familiar with Saros because I have witnessed family visits between the child and her parents.
You were originally Mr. Saronyan's individual counseling, and he was to do the BIP program with you. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Tell me, was Mr. Yan receptive to your counseling sessions?
Yes, sir, he was.
How many counseling sessions do you recall did Mr. Yan attend with you?
He attended 10. He
And-
missed 5, and 4 of them were no-shows.
In your opinion, did he complete all of the individual counseling that he was required to take or ordered to take?
No, sir, he did not.
What type of counseling would he have continued to be given if he would have continued to go to counseling?
We would have continued to work on his past trauma, as well as communication, setting boundaries, and family adjustment.
During the time that you were counseling with Mr. Yan, did you observe that he was learning from the counseling sessions that he did attend?
Yes, sir, I did.
Can you talk to me about your observations and why you believe he was learning from those counseling sessions?
There's 2 parts to that. We do assign homework during individual and during the BIP group. He would complete his homework, and it was thorough. It was not just one answered questions. And if he ever had questions about it, he would go over that during individual classes with me, or individual sessions. Also, he would demonstrate his knowledge when we would be in a group setting as well as an individual setting. He would talk about his own behaviors that when he would become upset and how he was handling it, and he would be able to verbalize how he could handle it better.
In addition to his individual counseling, he was ordered to work the BIP program. Has he completed the BIP program?
No, sir.
Has he started it on more than one occasion?
Yes, sir.
Do you know when was the last time that he attended any BIP program times or sessions?
I believe his last attended session would have been December the 12th, 2022.
The BIP program, explain that to me. What does BIP mean?
It means Batter Intervention Prevention Program. We provide that service for individuals who have a history of domestic violence. And we review the tactics that they use during domestic violence, which is about power and control. And then we try to also implement how they can use equality in those areas instead of tactics of power and control.
Is it important when a person's been ordered to attend the BIP program that he complete all of the sessions in a BIP program?
Yes, sir, it is.
And why is that?
Because of the time that they have demonstrated domestic violence, they didn't get there in 1 to 2 weeks. And so it takes them a while to cognitively make those changes and demonstrate those changes. So each session builds upon each other.
Can you tell from your records when was the last time that he had an individual counseling session with you?
That would have been November the 28th, 2022.
Have you had contact with Mr. Yan since November of 2022?
Yes, sir, I have.
When was the last contact that you had with Mr. Yan?
Mr. Yan reached out by phone in February. I want to say it was February the 25th. He reached out by phone and also by text.
And what did he advise you by that in that phone conversation or that text message?
That he had moved in with family and removed himself away from the situation between he and his wife, and that he is in a better mental health situation and that he was working and also working towards getting an apartment.
And did you infer from that conversation that he had moved to Houston with his family?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Have you observed Mr. Yon and Miss Yon together?
Yes, sir, I have.
And what were your observations about their interactions together?
My observation is that during the few times that they have been together, it's difficult to say because there was many times when they would, Mr. Yon would attend BIP group. She would be in the lobby, which we don't really encourage spouses to be in the lobby during any of the group sessions because we want it to be their safe place. However, the interactions I have observed with them is that Mrs. Yon was very verbally aggressive and assertive, and Mr. Yon was just mute or passive.
Have you had an opportunity to observe either of the parents with Saros, the child, the subject of this suit?
Yes, sir, I have.
And what were those times? What kind of sessions were those involved?
Those were involved in family visitation.
And what observations did you make during that family visitation?
During those family observations, I observed that they were working together in a sense. Mr. Yon would be gathering all of the things, trying to make sure that they bring a lot of things for Saros. And they seem to be working together as much as possible.
Have you had an opportunity? Well, first of all, during those family visits, what was Saros's attitude towards Mr. Yon?
She was very open, very clingy initially. They stopped doing the visits at our office. But during that time, what I did observe is that she was very clingy to Mr. Yon.
Did you see the same type of affection towards Miss Yon during those family visits?
No, sir.
Have you reviewed or been informed of the family history between Mr. Yon and Miss Yon?
Yes, sir, I have.
And would you agree with me that family history contains quite a bit of domestic violence over a long period of time?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that it would be imperative for the family for those counseling sessions to have been completed and for the BIP program to have been completed?
Yes, sir.
You haven't had any conversations with Mr. Yon or Miss Yon since the end of February 23rd or thereabouts. Is that what I hear you say?
Correct.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. I'll pass the witness.
I just have a couple questions for you. So you had mentioned that at some point you became aware that Mrs. and Mr. Yon had separated. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And he went to Houston for a while?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that a tactic or a mechanism or a tool that you teach your clients to separate whenever things are heated?
Tactic or what?
Is it a tool that you teach your clients to utilize?
Not so much as separate, but take a time out.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Would you agree that my client has made efforts to comply? I know he hasn't finished, but has he made efforts to comply with the BIP program and other things?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you see some improvement?
Yes, ma'am. I have seen some improvement.
Okay. Do you believe that if he completed BIP, we would see good improvement from where they started?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness. Thank you.
You had testified that you had observed a visit between the parents and their child, Sarose. When was that visit that you observed? Can you recall?
So I started seeing, I'm trying to recall, I started seeing Mr. Jan in January 24th of 2022. I want to say it was probably about 3 months after that.
Okay. Have you observed any visits between the parents and Sarose since Sarose has been moved to her new placement?
When was she moved to her new placement?
I don't have a date specific, but I was made aware that the placement was going to be changed about the end of November.
2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. No, I have not.
Okay. Pass the witness, Your
Have
Honor.
a good day.
And Judge, I do not have any objections to Mr. Alvey's proposed exhibits.
Great, thank you. All right then, petitioners exhibits 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 will be admitted.
I would call Ms. Holly Warren.
All right, Ms. Warren. All right, ma'am, you were previously sworn, so you may begin.
Ms. Warren, how are you employed?
I own a private practice here in Lubbock, New Insights Counseling, PLLC.
And do you have any certificates or degrees for counseling?
I'm a licensed chemical dependency counselor and a licensed professional counselor.
And how long have you been a licensed professional counselor?
Since last year.
Did you get any degrees to become eligible to become a licensed professional counselor?
Yes, sir. I have a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling from Texas Tech.
And when did you get your master's degree from Tech?
In 2020. I'm sorry. My bachelor's degree was 2017.
And have you been counseling with individuals since that time?
Yes.
Have you been asked to testify in court as a counselor before?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I would ask that the court acknowledge that Ms. Warren is a expert in counseling and can be able to testify towards counseling services.
All right, any objection?
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
All right then, Ms. Warren, you are now qualified as an expert and you may testify as to your opinions in your field of expertise only.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, Ms. Warren, are you familiar with Charlie Yan, Saron Yan, or Saros Yan, the parents and the child, the subject of this suit?
Yes, sir. I've not met the child.
Okay, have you had, has either Mr. Saron Yan or Miss Charlie Yan been one of your clients that you have counseled with?
Charlie Young is
And
my client.
when did you begin counseling with Miss Yan?
In May of 2022.
And was that based upon CPS referrals to you?
Yes, sir.
And were you given a history of the reasons that Miss Yan was being referred to you?
Yes, sir, I was.
What was that kind of history?
There was a history of domestic violence.
Have you been counseling with Miss Yan since, well, first of all, how many sessions did you have with Miss Yan?
Between 30 and 35, if not more. Without opening each note individually, it would be hard to say. Some of them were missed sessions, but there were 39 entries.
And what types of things did you counsel Miss Yan about?
We talked a lot about her trauma history, how her trauma has impacted her ability to resolve conflicts, set boundaries, those types of things. Her emotional reactivity, we talked a lot about that. She's completed a relapse prevention plan, a safety plan, those types of things.
And do you, in your opinion, has she completed the counseling that she's been required to do through Child Protective Services?
Well, it's ongoing, but yes, she's been very compliant.
And do you believe that she has gained insight and learned from your counseling sessions?
Absolutely. Yes, I do.
Tell me about the things that you believe that Ms. Yon has learned and the insights that she's gained.
She is learning to acknowledge her part in the conflict. She's learned more effective communication skills. She's demonstrated to me that she is able to, I mean, things like I statements and how to communicate during conflict without, you know, blaming and attacking, those kinds of things. It's been processed, but she's learning.
If I told you that she was still arguing with her caregivers, her CPS caseworkers or St. Francis Ministries caseworkers, would you be aware of those things?
I am aware of those things. When those things happen, we discuss it at length. And sometimes, yes.
Do you believe that she has gained some significant insight and would be able to have a family and live in peace with her family?
I've never observed her interactions with her. The only time I've only seen her with Saram one time. And so it would be hard for me to comment on that without seeing them together.
Have you, during your counseling sessions, discussed, when you've talked about you knew her records or her past? Did y'all discuss being a victim of domestic violence on a regular basis?
Yes.
And has that been one of the primary things that you've counseled with her about?
It's been one of the primary, yes.
When was the last?
Mr. Abbey, I just wanted to let you know Mr. Gatlin has just logged in and I have brought him in. So just to give you a heads up.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Ms. Warren, when was the last time that you had counseling sessions with Ms. Yon?
I last saw her on the 17th, this last Friday.
Okay. And so you've been continuing to counsel with her?
Yes, I'm still seeing her.
Have you ever observed her with Saros?
No, I have not.
And you said you've only had one, you've only seen her with Mr. Yon on one occasion?
It was briefly, it was via a Zoom session. We were attempting to bring him into a session for a couple session. It was before they started with Mr. Gatlin.
Do you believe that couples counseling would be imperative for Ms. Yon and Mr. Yon?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Ms. Warren. I'll pass the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Warren, I'm just regarding Mr. Alvey's last question. Were you attempting to do couples counseling for the Yans?
Yes.
Okay, and if you had become their couples therapist, would you have been able to go back to seeing Miss Yan individually, or is that some type of ethical issue?
Well, if I bring him into a session with Charlie, I think I would have been able to continue seeing them. I don't think I would have been able to see her individually if I had kept them as a couple.
Okay.
The couple becomes the client.
Okay, so you are able to continue seeing Miss Yan on her own, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and it sounds like she has really utilized your services. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and when this case is closed, is she able to continue seeing you?
As long as she's involved with the CPS services, then yes.
Okay. Do you take individual clients?
I do.
Okay. So you mentioned a relapse prevention plan. Did Miss Yan complete that with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what goes into creating that plan?
It's pretty lengthy. It talks about, attitudes toward relapse, why you got sober in the first place. Do those reasons still apply or have they evolved? And then it takes you through a relapse. It's kind of like if you can lay out a relapse, all the things that you might do, you can find ways to stop that process while it's happening. Like if I find myself at the liquor store, if nothing's worked and I find myself at the liquor store, what's the one thing that I know would work in that moment? And if that doesn't work and it proceeds and I, actually have those kinds of things. So laying out a relapse, I would have to pull it up to see more. Do you want to hear more?
That's okay.
Okay,
Was Miss Yan insightful during the creation of that plan?
very, yeah, she was.
Okay, can you explain that?
She's very creative. She's not afraid. She's completely fearless when it comes to imagining herself in a situation and really figuring out, okay, these are the feelings I'm feeling. This is the situation I'm in. What am I going to do?
So it's your opinion that Miss Yan took that relapse plan seriously?
Very.
And were you involved in creating her safety plan also?
Yes,
Okay, and did that kind of go the same way?
it did.
Okay, insightful in that creation also?
Yes.
Um,
And she sent me her certificate for her parenting classes too. So
Through the Padre
I've got that on my record. Yes.
and that's through the Padre program?
Yes.
Okay, do you know how many education groups she completed?
I don't have that record. No, ma'am.
You said that Miss Yan has learned accountability and you stated she started to use I. What does that mean in your field?
When you're articulating how you feel in a way that's non-challenging and non-accusatory to the other partner, it invites more healthy communication. So in other words, if I tell you you're making me feel a certain way, that's a challenge that puts you on the defensive. If I say, when that happens, I feel this, it opens the line of communication without the other person feeling like they're under attack.
Okay, and when you started seeing Miss Yan in May of 2022, was she able to do that?
No.
Okay, so would you agree that she has made much progress since you began seeing her?
Yes. Yes, I would.
I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Warren, I'm the
Yes.
father's attorney. Have you had, how much dealings have you had with the father?
Just the one session.
Okay. So you wouldn't be able to really talk about his progress or project how much progress we might be able to achieve, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Jackson.
Ma'am, when is the last counseling session that you've had with Ms. Yan?
It was this past Friday, the 17th.
Okay. Were you ever made aware of any of her behavior that took place on March 22nd, 2023 at one of the visitations? Were you made aware of that?
March 22nd?
No, March 2nd.
Oh, March 2nd. No.
Okay. Were you aware of any incidents that took place back on July 27th or July 30th? In their
Can
home?
you be more specific? I think with the air conditioner?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I was aware of that one.
Were you aware that as of March 7th, that these parents continue to engage in domestic violence cycles? Are you aware of that?
It's my understanding that there haven't been any physical altercations.
Okay. Okay. Would you agree with me that a domestic violence cycle doesn't necessarily have to be physical?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, I mean, can't there be domestic violence between parties that aren't physical?
Well, there can be emotional abuse. That's what you mean.
Okay. All right, I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Albee.
Miss Warren, were you aware that Mr. Yan had left and moved to Houston towards the end of February?
Yes, sir.
And were you aware that he's back at home with Miss Yan now?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that they don't have a source, or that Mr. Yan doesn't have a source of income from employment?
I'm not aware of his employment.
Would you agree with me that financial difficulties cause stress in relationships?
Yes, I would agree with that.
And that a volatile relationship that is stressful can arise to a situation that is what you were working with Miss Yon about trying to correct.
Can we object to that?
Charlie, if you'll let me talk, okay? I don't have an objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So what was your question again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I apologize. Would you agree with me that financial concerns can be stressful?
Yes, I can. Yes,
And
that's true.
And in a volatile relationship, those stresses are instigators towards domestic violence?
I mean, they could be, but I don't know that they have been in this situation.
Right. And would you agree with me that even within the last month, there has been on again, off again in their relationship?
It was my understanding that he moved to Houston to work.
Thank you, Ms. Warren. I'll pass this.
I do have a couple, Your Honor. Thank you. Ms. Warren, just because you are an expert, and I think there's going to be some terms we're hearing a lot today, what is a domestic violence cycle?
The domestic violence cycle, there's usually an escalation in tension, and then an outburst, and then kind of the honeymoon period, and then it rebuilds, and then there's an episode, and then there's the honeymoon period. It's that kind of thing.
Okay, and does that cycle entail physical violence?
That's for physical violence, yes.
Okay, so if there's not physical violence, a domestic violence cycle would not be applicable to a situation.
That's correct. I mean, there's different kinds of abuse, but when you're talking about violence, that typically implies that there's been some sort of physical altercation. Yes.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call Mr. Richard Gatlin.
All right, sir. Thank you. Let me just ask, just no pressure. Is there any possible stipulation to Mr. Gatlin's credentials and background that we could stipulate to qualifying him as an expert?
I, of course, want that, Your Honor.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay. And I just asked because I think most of you have had dealings with Mr. Gatlin before, and so that was why I asked. Okay, then, Mr. Gatlin, the attorneys have stipulated to your qualifications as an expert, and as such, you are entitled to testify to your opinions in your field of expertise.
Okay.
As a counselor. Okay. All right, you may proceed, Mr. Alvey.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gatlin, have you had the opportunity to counsel with Charlie Yon, Sarome Yon, and or Saros Yon, the child, the subject of this suit?
Yes to Sarome and to Charlie, but no to Saros, the child.
Okay. And when did you begin counseling with either Mr. or Miss Yon?
October 27th of 2022. That was the first couple counseling session.
And what specifically were you asked to counsel or do for this couple?
I was asked to address the problems in their relationship that had to do with a history of domestic violence and also residual work regarding their recoveries from substance abuse with the goal of trying to work toward reunification.
And Mr. Alvey, Mr. Lawson has logged in, and I have admitted him. He wanted me to let you know. So
thank you, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Gatlin, how many sessions have you had with Mr. and Miss Yon?
10.
And what has been the basis of those sessions?
Well, the work that we have primarily tried to do is to improve the communication between them and to reduce the conflict between them, and to help them communicate better and to resolve their problems, current and past problems.
Do you believe in the 10 sessions that you've had with them that you have accomplished the things that you have set out to do?
No, I have not.
Tell me why you say that.
Well, the overall, if we look at all 10 sessions collectively, there were a few moments of progress where the couple was able to communicate effectively. But overall, the communication was very much full of conflict. There was much arguing, and they have really had a difficult time putting aside their complaints of one another and the problems that they have between them, such that consistent progress could be made.
When was the last session that you had with them?
March 9th of 2023, this year.
Were you aware that Mr. Yon had gone to Houston to live with his family at the end of February?
Yes.
And are you aware that he's back with Miss Yon now?
Yes.
And is that kind of what you're talking about, that they still are having difficulties even as within the last month at communicating effectively and not arguing?
Yes, and to include that they're really not even certain whether or not they will be together. It's sort of up in the air.
And are you also aware of their past history of domestic violence?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that, well, strike that. Have you had any opportunities to observe either parent with cirrhosis, the child?
No.
Identify or characterize the relationship between the parents as still unstable?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Gatlin. I'll pass the witness.
Okay, Ms. Sapien?
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Gatlin, in your sessions, let me strike that. Did your sessions focus on the past behaviors of Mr. and Mrs. Yan?
That was yes, I don't think it was a focus, but it certainly was a part of our discussions, yes.
Okay, and their past history, would that bring some pretty strong emotions from them?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Is that common, a common thing you see in your practice, that past traumas elicit a large response from someone?
Well, yes, depending on the person and their personality and their temperament.
Okay, and so I think it was your opinion that they needed to focus on individual counseling. Is that right?
Yes. About halfway through the couple counseling, I recommended that we discontinue so that they could go back and address their individual problems individually.
Okay, and do you know if they have been doing that?
As I understand it, they did. I think Charlie was attending individual counseling ongoing, so she didn't have to return to anything. She was still attending. And Sarome, I believe, went back to, I think he started with a new counselor. And so they were only away from couple counseling for about 1 month before they returned to couple counseling.
Okay, and when they returned, did you see any improvement?
No.
None at all?
No, I did not.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, and Mr. Jackson?
Mr. Gatlin, would it be a fair statement to say that you started couples counseling in October of 2022? The last session was in March of 2023. Would it be a fair statement to say that the parents are about where they were at when they started with you at the beginning, emotionally?
I think that would be a fair statement, an accurate statement.
Okay. Pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Gatlin, thank you very much for logging in and for your time this morning. You are free to go, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate you. witness?
I
Mr.
do, Your
Lawson?
Honor. I would call Mr. Pace Lawson.
All right, you may proceed, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Lawson, I appreciate you logging on. I know that your time is it's been you weren't supposed to be here this late, and I apologize. I appreciate the fact that you'd come on today.
Oh, yes, sir. I know this is important. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Are you familiar with Charlie Yon, Sarome Yon, and or Sarosh Yon, who is the child subject of our suit today?
Yes.
And have you counseled with any of those folks in your counseling business?
Sarome, yeah, in 5 sessions.
And when did your 5 sessions with Sarome start?
January 30th of this year.
And when was the last session that you had with Sarome?
March 15th.
So last week?
Yes.
What types of things were you counseling with Mr. Yon during those 5 sessions?
So initially, I've provided him with what I'd refer to as a discernment counseling intervention. It's a practice known for helping couples resolve their ambivalence about whether or not to remain in the relationship. I discovered early on that he was highly ambivalent about his position in the relationship with Charlie.
And do you believe that that has changed during the time he's been counseling with you?
The ambivalence remains, they're back and forth. At one point, he resolved the ambivalence, I think in February, and there was some pressure and some outside influences that, caused him to get back on the fence and back into the relationship.
Do you feel like Mr. Yon continues to need counseling with you?
I think ongoing support would be wise. Yes.
What types of things do you believe he needs ongoing support for?
Well, currently he's in a crisis situation with this case in the relationship, and there's just a lot of confusion about what to do.
Were you aware when he started about the domestic violence between him and Miss Yon for several years?
Yes, sir.
Have you worked on any of those issues with Mr. Yon?
As far as how they were manifesting in the present, yes.
Do you believe that he's learned anything from your counseling sessions concerning those violent tendencies?
I do believe that he discovered the power to walk away. Yes. So yes, I do.
Have you observed him with Charlie at all?
No, sir.
Have you observed him with Saros at all?
No, sir.
Do you have an opinion as to whether or not he and Charlie would be a stable family home, or that they could provide a stable family home for a 2-year-old child?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to that question. He just stated he has no relevance or knowledge of my client's actions or who she is.
All right, I'm going to sustain. I think it might go beyond the scope of his ability to answer.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Sapien.
No questions, Judge.
All right, Ms. Stevens.
Yes, sir. My client, Mr. Yan, has participated with you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I mean, by that, I mean, he's actively participated. He's not one of these that's come and just tried to go through the motions without actually making any progress. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's absolutely been invested in our dialogue. Yeah.
And do you feel you have a good working relationship with him?
I think we're forming one, and it's still early.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I believe you testified, but I want to make sure that you do believe that my client can continue to make progress. Is that correct?
Yes, as challenging as it is with the given circumstances, I do.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Lawson.
I do. Mr. Lawson, you weren't providing a bit of counseling for Mr. Yon, were you?
No, sir.
Thank you. I'll pass witness.
All right, Mr. Lawson, you're free to go at this time. Thank you again for logging in. We appreciate your time and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you all very much.
I'll be calling Mickey Lane next, Your Honor.
Okay.
And,
All right,
and it's going to take some time. I was going to ask for a brief recess here.
Yeah, we're going to take I kind of figured it'd be a department person or St. Francis. So we're going to take about, 10-minute break. My plan is we will probably try to work till about 12:30. And then I'm going to give you all just a very short lunch break, about 30 minutes. And we would start back at 1. So that's kind of the plan.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, everybody take a few minutes.